Alright, this video is how to paint a self-portrait in Procreate. Obviously this is me. My name is John. That is a portrait of me that I painted recently. I've been learning to paint and draw for a little over a year now, and I'm really enjoying Procreate, and I thought, why don't I just make a little tutorial here on how to do this. If you like it, you can follow along and do your own. So the first thing that makes sense to do is to take an image of yourself, and you can just use your phone, whatever is convenient. I recommend though that you try and get some really hard or harsh lighting. So outside on a cloudy day is going to be like the most difficult sort of thing to paint because there's not a lot of shadows being cast on your face. I'm at my desk and I have a little lamp that I point at myself for video calls and stuff, so that's what I'm using here. But harsh light on a bright sunny day could work pretty well for you too. And that just makes everything a little bit easier to render when you go to do the shadows and all the shapes of your face. After you've got your photo, then I don't use the reference feature in Procreate. I just went ahead and inserted the photo right on my canvas so I could just do like a side-by-side kind of thing. It's just easy to color pick from the photo that way and to look at what you're doing. And you can also then size the photograph and your painting to be roughly the same, which kind of makes translating the features of your face a little bit easier because you can do like a direct comparison. The first step that I usually do is I just draw an outline. So in this case, it's just rough, the very rough shapes of my face, beard. I'm wearing sunglasses in this. I knew when I painted it, I wasn't going to paint it as if it was indoors. I was just going to have some sort of matte background of some kind. And this saves you, one, the work of having to draw eyes, which is time consuming and honestly a little bit tricky. And also I really like sunglasses. I like to draw people with sunglasses. I thought I looked kind of cooler with, with sunglasses. So why not? So the next step is I just go through and I pick a brush. I think for this one I use the Nico Roll brush, I think is how you say it. Nico maybe. And it's just a built-in brush in Procreate. I like it because it's square and chunky, and I'm essentially just color picking from a spot on the photograph and then painting that spot down on the canvas and doing that over and over until you get some really basic shapes built up on the canvas. Don't worry too much at this stage if it doesn't quite look right. It's going to be very sort of blotchy, and if you step back or squint your eyes enough, you should get like a general impression of you when you finish this step, but it's not going to look super great. Then I go in and I start just working specific sections to try and get some of the shapes and things to read a little bit better, some of the gradients. So I don't get too specific at this stage. At this point, I'm just kind of expanding some colors, reducing some. Most of the color picking then at this point is right from the actual canvas. It's not from the image anymore. And just trying to get a general feel for how all of this is going to look and how to render things like a little bit better than just straight up, square marks on the canvas. Try and work the whole thing. Don't zoom in too much at this stage. Just, move your brush around and try and make different parts a little bit better, a little bit at a time. And you'll start to see as you work that the whole image begins to liven up a little bit, and you start to see the forms and the shapes, and it's kind of a fun stage to get to. And if you ever get lost, you're not quite sure what to do, then the nice thing is you've got a photo of you right next to you there, and you can just go and look and try and replicate more or less what you're seeing. I think it's fun to do things at least a little bit differently than the photo, so I added a little extra gray and kind of speckles in my beard. I made my beard, thicker and kind of more square than maybe it is in real life. You're painting this thing, you might as well take some liberties. Otherwise just use the photograph, I guess. So for me on these straight on portraits like this, the eyes are usually the thing that sell it. Obviously those are covered with sunglasses in this one. So I spent a little extra time on the sunglasses to try and make those feel a little bit more real. Basically that and the beard were the two things that I wanted to bring out some detail in to kind of give your eye, the viewer's eyes, something to look at. And so for your face, you'll have to kind of decide like where are you going to spend the time to sort of draw people's attention, because the more detail and contrast you add to any given area it's gonna suck people in. At some point in this, I'm thinking to myself, I look way too serious. Like I'm not that serious of a person, and I look like a little a little grumpy, and so I think I'm gonna try and liven this up a little bit, and so I go for a whole hot pink kind of feel. I like make the highlight layer hot pink, and I change the background. But as I'm playing with the colors, I realize I can't actually get away with this. Like, I can't quite make the light work the way that I want, and I figured I could probably get there, but it was going to take me a lot of time, and I didn't want to spend that much time on this. So I think this took me like an hour or two, and that was about the limit for this one. So maybe if I go back and do this again at some point, and I probably will, then I'll maybe try to do something a little more crazy with the colors. Colors are hard. Colors are difficult. So sometimes if you're struggling with the forms and stuff and the shading, you know, just go vanilla with the color so you don't make your job too difficult. After that, you got to decide what kind of background you want. I switch between a bunch of different ones in this, trying to figure out if I'm happier with lighter or darker. I ended up going with a darker background, but I should have changed my shirt color, because now that I have time to review this, I see that like my shirt basically completely gets lost in the background, and it kind of just looks like I have this floating neck in space. But here's the thing with painting is you will always find more mistakes, because you're always going to be learning and progressing. And sometimes you find those mistakes when you sit back down after a cup of coffee, and sometimes you see them once you think that you're done. And so I always want to go back and edit my paintings, because even a few weeks later, I'm always seeing stuff that I don't like or that I didn't do quite right. But I don't know, at some point I gotta just live with the imperfection, I guess. Anyway, that's about it for this one. I hope you enjoyed this video. Go out there, take a photograph, or heck, if you really think you can, skip the photograph and just paint straight from your how you imagine your face looks, I guess. And yeah, have some fun with it. Take it easy.